For the first pick of the DADBODD, actually the podcast 2022 draft, we select lockbets.net. Lockbets from New Jersey. What's going on, my friend? Welcome to the DADBODD podcast, episode 81. It's a little bit of NBA. It's a little bit of NFL draft. I am Guns Picks. I am joined with my partner in crime, Lockbets. It is the Gun and the Lock show tonight, and we're gonna have a special guest. I'll get to it in a second. But how you doing, Locks? How you doing?
Dude, I'm good. I am very good. Thank you for asking. Been a good night so far. My New York Jets taking the sauce. I mean, how New York can you get, right? I mean, you got your Sunday gravy, you got your Sunday football, and now we got the fucking sauce, baby. I love it. The only thing that is hampering my love is I have my fat fingers. DraftKings makes it so fucking confusing to put your bet in because they don't put it numerically. They put it 10, 6, 3, 4. So I fucking took sauce at 5.
Oh no.
But it's okay. It's okay. Listen, I'm fucking pumped. I think Sauce is great talent, generational talent. And if he could be half of what Darrelle Revis was, I certainly will fucking take it. But how the hell are you doing, bro? How are you?
I'm doing good. I don't know if I'm going to be drafting anybody today because the Patriots just trade their picks. Like I had a tweet today. I was like, oh, the Patriots just traded their first round pick for 6 future picks and a Buick Skylark. I don't know what they're going to do tonight. I don't know if they're going to go get a wide receiver, which they probably could that late in the draft. I think they're sitting at 17 or 19.
Right.
So I have a ways to go before we get to that. As we're doing this podcast right now, we're sitting at 9. Seattle is on the clock. We are at commercial break.
I mean, quarterback here?
Do they? I don't know when the quarterbacks are going to start coming out. If I was, I mean, this is one of the worst quarterback classes in maybe 4 to 5 years. I think this is kind of one of those switches. Next year is supposed to be where the quarterbacks are supposed to be coming out. I mean, you got the Bama quarterback, you got CJ Stroud. Those guys are going to be coming out next year. I don't know. Is it time to take Malik Willis? Is it time to take?
I think it is.
The board.
It's now or never right now for Seattle. Yeah. I mean, also, I think some quarterback needy teams are going to start trading up. I mean, the Steelers need a quarterback. You have Carolina, who obviously didn't take a quarterback. The Giants, I mean, they could still use a quarterback. No,
if they do take a quarterback, it's just going to create controversy. Especially if you take them. I don't think. Do they have any more picks in the first round?
Oh, no, they're done.
Yeah, so taking them late is not going to really be a threat to Daniel Jones. I know. I mean, the quarterback is probably going to be taken by the Steelers. I mean, the Steelers are sitting at minus 200, 250 now. I saw in the books that they were going to take a quarterback unless they do some shocking surprise and go build on their defense. I don't know. It's like, have you always bet the draft? I always ask people this because I didn't bet the draft. The first time I ever bet the draft was the pandemic when there was nothing else to bet on. And I started capping that.
I've always bet the draft.
Okay.
Also, I've always been a degenerate in that sense. It's a Thursday night. Love my Jets usually. And the Jets always let me down. So I got to keep something in the game. Got to put a little skin in there. I love betting the draft, but I always have to put a disclaimer out there. You know, you can't be fucking putting, your normal unit size on this stuff.
No,
but it's a crapshoot, man. Last year I had Devontae Smith going to the Giants, and I thought it was a godsend lock. And, I hammered the hell out of it. And you know what happened there? I mean, the Eagles trade up with the Cowboys, and they steal Devontae, chicken legs, and the rest is history, as we say.
Actually, I didn't do too bad in the draft, at least the past 2 years. This one, I kind of just kept it really easy and just went with the obvious ones,
right?
And then just left it at that, really small.
Well, listen, you're sharp, all right. I mean,
no, I'm not. I'm just conservative. I'm not taking any risks.
Right.
And I'm not making much money. I'm making enough to go buy me a sandwich tomorrow. That's pretty much what I'm doing with the draft.
You heard it here first. Guns. He bets on sports, specifically the draft, to get a turkey sandwich, or would it be a ham sandwich, would you say?
We'll see. I'm a good Italian guy. Give me a good Italian. Maybe Jersey. I mean, might hit Jersey Mike's tomorrow and get the big sandwich.
Okay.
Treat myself a little bit. Man. So I guess we should talk about our sponsor real quick before we actually get to our special guest.
We should mention it, because if you're watching, the 10,000 Sower fans, make sure you tag these guys and let them know Lock Bets is thirsty. He's all out. He's been out for weeks. The thirst is real.
The thirst is real. And from what I'm told, the new package is coming for us boys to enjoy on the show. But to our sponsor, here we go. This podcast is sponsored by Viva Tequila Seltzers. That's right. The DADBODD podcast is sponsored by Viva Tequila Seltzers. Viva Tequila Seltzers is a refreshing and drinkable hard seltzer, 88 calories, 0 carbs, 0 sugar, and 4.5 ABV. Viva is the perfect drink for your draft celebrations, especially the Jets, as it was created with the active lifestyle in mind. Viva flavored their tequila seltzers because flavor is the spice of life, and they like their drinks with a kick, just like they like to live their lives. Viva flavors pair perfectly with their artisanal Blanco tequila for a subtle and refreshing drinks. Their belief is to live long, live well, and live it up. Hashtag Viva Up. Make sure you follow them on Twitter at Viva Seltzers. I'm carrying this over to segue time. I don't know if you have a pick for tomorrow. I wanted to give the people some F5s, tornado style. If you want to join in on that one, you can, Mr. Locks. Do you have
No. I have no pick, because you're the F5 genius. I have the Jets on the clock, I'm pretty sure. I got to check. And we have a guest tonight that's going to be giving out so many picks. So I'm going to let you and our special guest break it down for the crew. Check out my tweets tomorrow. I'll have a few.
All right, perfect. So let's just get into this. The Jets are on the clock. We may have a impromptu DADBODDs exclusive live, but let's get into the DADBODDs capper breakdown.
It is time for the DADBODDs capper breakdown.
Oh yeah. All right, so my pick for tomorrow's games, we're going with 2 on this one. I'm not going to give just one. I'm going to give 2. So I've looked at the F5s, and of course, if you ever done a first 5-inning bet, the lines are never out, especially on my books, until the morning. But I'm going to give you these early, so grab them as soon as they launch. I'm going to go with San Diego minus half a point or half a run.
Love it.
Tomorrow. San Diego is an absolute monster in F5s. They're 12-5 on F5s overall in 19 games, 6-2 on the road. Darvish is pitching tomorrow. He's 3-1 in F5s. And all those wins, you know how many runs he gave up in all those wins? 0. Shut him out in those 5. He only has one outlier. He gave up 11 runs in one of his starts, which was the loss.
We don't talk about that one.
But I digress here, because he's going against the Pittsburgh Pirates, who are abysmal. And if you check what he did last year to the Pittsburgh Pirates, he's 1-0, 2.13 ERA last season. And they're playing Pittsburgh is putting Thompson on the bump. Thompson is 1-3 straight up in F5s, and last year he was 0-2 versus San Diego with a 7 ERA. So that's my first pick. Take San Diego minus a half a run. Second pick, we're going to be going with the dog here. I think he's going to be a dog tomorrow. Let's hope on the F5. So Minnesota money line, first 5 innings, and guess who's on the mound? Mr. Bundy, and I'm not talking about Ted Bundy, because Ted Bundy died a long time ago, and he also killed a lot of people. But I digress. Ted, we're talking about Bundy here, pitching for the Minnesota. He played for the LA Angels, and before that, he played for Baltimore Orioles. He only has given up 1 run in first 5 innings in 3 starts. 1. That's it. He's actually having a great year on the new team for the Twins. The Twins are 4-2 straight up in first 5s on the road. Kluber is going to be pitching for
Kluber the noodle, noodle of an arm.
Yeah, the Kluber, the noodle. He's 1-2 in first fives, and has progressively gotten worse as his starts have gone in from his first to his third. He's hitting his fourth start here, and I like Bundy in this spot. So give me Minnesota money line first five. So those are my two picks for the Dad Bods Capper breakdown.
Garrett Wilson.
Garrett Wilson has been picked.
Okay.
And Lock Bets is ecstatic for getting him, and that's actually
let's fucking go. Let's go. It's showtime. We got Sauce. We got Garrett Wilson. Wow.
Unbelievable. What a good pick. So
I apologize. Go back. I'm sorry. That was your live reaction. Let's fucking go. Wear my green.
That was a Dad Bods exclusive. I don't have to do the intro because it was just done by Lock Bets here. But I hear a knock on the door, so let's go.
Oh, you know that sound. That means the dads have a special guest ready to join the show. Let's tune in and see who it could be.
So our special guest has joined us, and I want to give him the proper introduction. So when I think of what I consider the Mount Rushmore, which there is no Mount Rushmore in Australia, by the way, I just want to tell people that. I think of Chris Helmsworth. I think of Wolverine, Hugh Jackson. I think of Nicole Kidman. I think of Ben Simmons, by the way, Australian. And I also think of Luke Longley. But I think there's somebody else's face that should go on the Australian Mount Rushmore. And this guy is joining us right now. You might have seen him as a regular on NBA Talk with J Money is Money. He is NBA capping guru himself from down under, joining me in the morning time. We're in the nighttime here over in the U.S. side. Please welcome for the first time on the Dad Bods podcast, Josh, a.k.a. @punt_sport on Twitter. What's going on, my friend? Welcome to the Dad Bods podcast.
Appreciate you, gentlemen. Thanks for having me on. That was quite the introduction. That's the best intro I think I've had on any podcast and or live show. So we're off to a flying start.
We spare no expense on intros here on the Dad Bods podcast. But I mean, how's it going right now with NBA, the playoffs? How's the picks going? I mean, are you cooking? You cashing? I mean, what's going on?
Yeah, the playoffs have been interesting. The series betting has been excellent. 3-0 so far. Waiting on Memphis if they can get the job done for me tomorrow. That'll be a nice 4-0 to round off the series betting, which is great. Those are always sort of my larger positions. The game-to-game stuff so far, a bit up and down. We're kind of sitting at about 50%, minus about a unit. So nothing to write home about per se. It's been an interesting playoff so far. I think it's fair to say a lot of intrigue in a couple of these matchups, in particular that Memphis matchup, which just has my head in a pretzel, really, because I think the Grizzlies are just so much better, and I feel like they play so much better for the majority of games, and yet they just can't overcome that 3-point differential most nights, which is frustrating.
Yeah, it's been quite the battle. I mean, you got Memphis up 3-2, going into Game 6 tomorrow night. Do you see this series going into 7 games? I mean, what do you think is going to happen with this one? It's been an absolute slugfest. Of course, Memphis winning in dramatic fashion the other night. So, I mean, what do you see with this series? Do you think it's going to go to 7?
Yeah, that's now 2 dramatic wins for Memphis in this series. 2 games that Minnesota probably shouldn't have pissed away, and yet they did. So, and again, I don't know what that tells us. Does that mean that Minnesota should be up in the series, even though everything else sort of tells me that this one should really have been a wrap, maybe 4-1 when looking at the metrics in a little bit deeper fashion. So I'm just going to keep saying that I think Memphis gets it done tomorrow. I'm probably going to ride them again at -1. I think they do go and close it out. It's just going to be one of those games like it has been for the majority, where it's going to be rocks and diamonds shooting from deep. And if Minnesota shoot at 50%, just given the volume that they take from 3, it's obviously a lot to overcome for Memphis, who aren't a 3-point shooting team themselves. But if that's not dropping and it becomes a slower half-court sort of game, I think that plays into the Grizzlies' hands immensely. And that's when I think Minnesota struggle in a pretty large way. So I'm going to say it's done in 6. I'm going to ride Memphis tomorrow again, and hopefully they get the job done.
Josh, before Guns tells another cookie-cutter question, I got a question for you. Because I'm the casual NBA bettor. I don't touch NBA, and it's because I've been hurt so many times, more than any other sport, in my opinion, with the peaks, the valleys. I mean, how are you keeping how do you keep calm when your team that you took -4, -3 is down 22 points in late in the second quarter or even midway through the third quarter? Just give me a little insight into your brain, because my brain goes absolutely bonkers.
I think you just need to learn to sort of become numb to the emotion of it. It's one of those sports where, especially the modern NBA, right, which is so dependent on 3-point scoring and so much sort of faster pace than what it was even a decade ago, that inevitably there's going to be runs made by both sides throughout the 48 minutes. And, the old cliche of no lead is safe. And unfortunately that comes, with that sort of comes a level of variability that you have to deal with night to night when it comes to shooting. And, these guys, they can get hot. Anyone can get hot at any given moment. So, we saw it, I think, in the Toronto-Philadelphia game earlier. Danny Green was like 5 for 5 from 3 in the second quarter. Like, that's just insane. And that in itself can completely stem the tide and flip momentum for a side. And, that was a game that was completely in the balance. And next thing you know, the Sixers are now up 27 points in an elimination game, and it's pretty much a wrap. So that's all it can take sometimes. And I think the discipline of NBA betting comes with just understanding, especially in the playoffs, in a best of 7. Those things are probably going to even out over a 7-game series. And I do believe the better team generally does go through, and the more deserving team does go through in those situations. So that's why I think, in my opinion, series betting is probably more valuable. If you can find an edge there and you can find the right entry point, that's the best way to tackle it. Whereas game-to-game betting, you're just going to have to live with it sometimes. And, you can... everyone sort of screams it and says it that they were on the right side, but I do believe in NBA, you can be on the right side and lose by 20 sometimes. And that's just the nature of the sport, unfortunately. So yeah, it's certainly taxing emotionally and mentally sometimes, especially, when you get a week of sort of bad beats like that and it's just all snowballing. But yeah, it's all about, I guess, just staying the course and trusting what you're watching and what you're seeing, and that the numbers are sort of lining up with it, that it will flip long term.
So I got to get away from my cookie cutter questions. So Lockbets will respect me once again.
I have to move screens, so I'm going to remove myself from the chat. I don't belong in the middle, so I'm going to let you guys. I'm going to figure it out, but I'm going to be.
He's very excited about the Jets, by the way, and he's going to be coming back in the chat once we have this talk. But you have this name, Punt School, and when I saw the name, I think, okay, so he's a special team. He likes NFL, American football. He loves special teams. I can get along with this guy a little bit. He's a fan of the coffin corner, or he loves place kickers. Where did you come up with the name Punt School?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, because obviously when I first started out, I was just talking to an Australian audience, and I didn't realize that I would eventually get the reach that I have to interact and network with guys in the US. But in doing so, I sort of learned very quickly that the term punt or punter doesn't quite resonate in the US like it does here in Australia. So punt basically means to wager here in Australia. Okay. And essentially it's, the whole purpose of it was just an educational page to help, I guess, understand betting and sports betting in sort of a more profitable way. But yeah, like I said, very quickly learned that the word punt doesn't quite transpire in the US like it does here in Australia.
That's a great question, Guns, because
that was a great. I didn't expect that answer either. So I guess I'm gonna be.
I mean, every time I check out the page or check out the content, it's in the back of my mind. I'm like, there's got to be a story to this.
Yeah.
Like, is it 4th down and 12? Backed up on our own 20-yard line, and we got a punt. What?
I thought he just liked Pat McAfee or some of the famous punters before. I thought that was a great answer. So now I'm going to call.
So I'm going to go to the window and I'm going to punt.
Yeah.
I'm going to get a pint and I'm going to go punt.
Yeah. Basically, if you're a punter, you're a bettor. You're a sports bettor.
Wow.
That's unreal.
So essentially, I guess it's like wager school. It would be the comparison to it.
Yeah.
Yep. That's.
I love it. Let's start using
I love the term.
Let's make it big, all right? Let's make it big in this.
Let's send it worldwide. Yeah, why not?
Yeah, I love it.
So when you started on Twitter, did you have an expectation going into this? So were you capping games prior to even starting a social media handle? Or, I mean, how did that all come about?
Yeah, so I've been betting sort of full time for about a decade now, just under a decade. It'll be 10 years, sort of around September this year, actually. And so when I started the Twitter page, initially it was kind of just like a place to, I guess, empty my thoughts initially. And these are the things that I'm betting on. This is what I'm learning along the way. And as it sort of gained traction and there was some interest in it, I was like, well, maybe I can turn this into something a little bit more. Maybe I can actually help people at least get to the level that I'm at and maybe skip a few steps so that they don't have to go through the same teething processes that I did when I was first getting started, and potentially, make less mistakes along the way, which would be nice and help the bankroll, no doubt. So that's kind of how it really sort of came about. And then over time, it became a mesh of providing sort of educational content along with the picks that I play as well, and trying to sort of strike a balance where I don't want to just be associated as just a picks page. I want to think that I can offer a little bit more than that, both in terms of the analysis of the picks themselves, but also just in terms of the wider betting landscape and understanding the marketplace, which I think is, for a lot of entry-level bettors, it's important to understand that the marketplace itself is just completely different to having an understanding of sport. You can know the sport inside out and the players inside out, but that doesn't mean you understand anything to do with the market and the betting perspective of it. So,
right.
Yeah, just trying to find a balance between that is kind of where I landed on over the last few years. And I guess just being able to offer that sort of informative content and hopefully educational in a way, hence the school tag sort of lasting.
Yeah, I think that's important too. It's like with a market, or actually a social media that is oversaturated now, especially with the expansion of the U.S. with the federal lifting of sports gaming, and a lot of the books are just kind of opened up to all the states. It's really hard for a casual bettor or even a beginning bettor to go find the right source to go get information from. And I think it's important to, as this industry grows, is to find the right places to go, because I think there are just pools, and we talk about it in our chats all the time. They're just pools of people that I don't think they have the knowledge that it needs to be, that you're supposed to be watching this content because it's that's what Instagram tells me versus somebody that's given analytical analysis. But I think that is learned over time. I want to get back into the NBA stuff. Unless Lockbets wants to have one of his interesting questions, which I enjoy.
I did have one quick question. This brain of mine.
Yes, I love it. I love your brain is the best. It works
in mysterious ways. But with that being said, with the federally regulated apps, and you have a new app coming out every day in the States. What's it like down under with punting? Like, you guys have like. You guys obviously have like off track, shops, or what do you guys call it? Like, betting shops, patio, stuff like that.
Pretty much, yeah. Everything here is regulated and has been for a long time across all states. So accessibility is probably easier in Australia, I think, than anywhere else in the world. You download an app, you verify your information and deposit money, and off you go. Basically, no other questions asked, really. And much the same, like there's a multitude of apps out there. I think we're at about 100 currently in Australia, and there's new licenses being handed out every few months for new ones to pop up and offer basically the exact same thing. So I think the only difference is that all the accessibility that's becoming available to the US slowly is something that's sort of pre-existed here for the better part of a couple of decades now. And even finding places to walk in and place bets, we have local, they're called TABs, which is the name of the bookmaker themselves, but you find them at basically every pub, which is on every corner of every street. So it's everywhere, and it has been for quite some time. So just walking in and, placing a bet on a machine without even having to have any human interaction is just super simple. So yeah, it's quite literally everywhere here. And like I said, accessibility is like 10 out of 10 here.
Yeah,
it's great. It's great. We just got it.
What do you think? If one day we're up in Boston, Josh comes by, we got Sharky, got the whole crew, and 10 years from now we're in Boston and we're punting, we're taking pints. Wow. I mean, that is the dream. I mean, for better or for worse. I mean, I'm sure those places you know, you could probably overserve yourself and then just, forget what you're doing altogether, which I would not want to be a part of, but, God bless that. Awesome. I love to hear. I want to get down there one day, sometime soon. I know you guys are very restricted, but, are you guys open for business? Is the country itself open yet?
We're back. Yeah.
We're back.
We're back.
Okay.
Catch a flight, come down. I'll sort you out. We'll punt down on the corner pub, have a few pints.
You'll be punting. You'll be pinting.
Yeah.
You'll be cash. You have to change your slogan when you're down there.
All right. I'm going to take a back seat. I got my phone ready. I'm ready to hear some picks.
Okay. Let's get into the NBA because I think everybody's anxious on this one. So, I mean, what are we looking at tomorrow? Let's just talk about tomorrow. Let's small picture right now, and then we'll get into a little bit of the futures. So it looks like Philly's going to move on. So as far as the games go, tomorrow's slate, you have Memphis and Minnesota, right? And then you're going to have, what else do we have left on the board? I think that's all we got tomorrow, right?
That's all we've got tomorrow, and then it depends what happens in this Suns, Pelicans, and Jazz Mavs game as to whether we get Game 7s there the following day. Otherwise, it'll just be that one tomorrow, and we move on to the second round.
So let's talk about the Jazz Mavs because I think that starts 10 our time. It's 9:30 Eastern time now. So what do you think about that game? So you got Dallas, you got the Jazz, Mavs. It's 3-2 in that series, and for some reason, when I look at that series and I see Utah, I just think Utah's given up, and I was like, oh wait, they've won 2 games. What do you think is going to happen in this tonight? Let's just talk about tonight, Game 6.
Yeah, I'm on Dallas tonight. I took the money line there they're at a pick basically. Maybe they're at -1 on some books, but I think they get the job done here. Luka back in the rotations and lineup now obviously changes a lot. Utah had a great opportunity to start this series. No Luka for the first 3 games. They win Game 1 on the road. They should be up 2-1 going into Game 4, almost regardless. Whether they win the 2 on the road, whether they win the first one back at home. Instead, they're down 2-1, and then you get Luka Doncic back, and obviously that completely swings momentum and the entire sort of landscape of this series. So it was certainly an opportunity lost, and I think it kind of speaks to what you just mentioned as well, that Utah maybe have just checked out. There's something really wrong with that team this season. A lot of noise being made about relationships between players and management, and Quinn Snyder potentially already eyeing his next job and not really there. And normally I don't like to buy into that sort of stuff because it's all kind of just assumptions. Like we don't really know what's going on. We can make a narrative and story to whatever we want. But this one seems to ring a lot truer, I think, than most, just because the body language you see on the court, even just the level of play from Utah versus what we've seen from them the last 2 seasons is sort of night and day different and completely off brand for Utah basketball. So, yeah, there's definitely something wrong there for me. I think that the Jazz probably, if they face any sort of resistance here and fall behind in the early goings, I don't see how they punch back. I think they might just pack it up. So I like Dallas tonight. I think they get the job done. I think they match up really, really well now that they have Luka Doncic and Jalen Brunson back. The one thing Utah has struggled with all season is guards that can penetrate that first line and are comfortable playing in the mid-range, and you have 2 of those players that can do so, where if the defense overcommits and overhelps, they're both terrific playmakers. They make the extra pass, they find the open man, and if the defense doesn't, they blow past that first man on the perimeter and they settle for a comfortable and efficient mid-range shot. So yeah, I just don't think Utah has the answers right now, and nor do they have the motivation, it seems, to step up in this situation.
Yeah, I couldn't agree. Just from, I'm a casual guy, like lock bets on this one, so I'm just watching with just my eyeballs on this one, and you see like a Utah team that just looks lost, and maybe it's just time to like hit the delete button, reset, and try to figure out where to go with the team. Maybe even have a few seasons of suck so you can get a few draft picks as well.
Yeah. You have to do something, right? This is now 3 seasons. The ceiling of the team is the same. They always seem to fall in the playoffs. So something has to change.
Yeah. Karl Malone's not walking through that door anytime soon. Neither is John Stockton. Let's go into tomorrow's game. So we have Memphis, a great series, by the way. Every single goddamn game. This is the best series on the board. Memphis, the number 2 seed, playing the Minnesota Timberwolves going into Game 6. What are your thoughts on this one tomorrow?
Yeah, I just have to keep riding Memphis. Like I said earlier, this series kind of has my head in a bit of a pretzel, or trying to figure it out sometimes. I still am bullish on the Grizzlies. I think that they are the better team all around, individually. And I mean, if you go player by player, then, all of a sudden you start thinking, well, maybe Minnesota is that team that can get it done and could knock off the Grizzlies here. But unfortunately, that's not really how the playoffs work. You always need a certain level of team chemistry and execution, and that's where the Grizzlies sort of are a comfortable tier above Minnesota right now. I think Minnesota still has growing to do in that regard, whereas the Grizzlies are a little bit more assured of themselves and their roles and responsibilities within the team at any given moment. So that for me, in a Game 6, in an elimination game, that's where it's going to probably come to the fore. The Timberwolves have kind of been playing that carefree brand of basketball, and it's worked for them, and it hasn't worked for them where they've blown leads, but they can take those risks. I just think that in an environment like this, where they know it's lose and go home, they might just tighten up a little bit. If those shots don't start falling early, they start getting a little bit anxious. They start, I guess, overplaying to an extent and forcing things too much. And you do that against Memphis, and that's when you get yourself in a lot of trouble, because that defense is very, very good. And, if you're giving them the opportunity to then play in transition off of live rebounds, off of turnovers, that's when things can get ugly pretty quickly. So, yeah, I'm going to be on the Grizzlies tomorrow. I'm probably going to be on a full game under as well, which is always an uncomfortable place to be when these two teams play, just given their style and the nature. But you watch every single game this series, it's gotten slower and slower and slower, and I think it's just going to keep going. The total has been adjusted. I just don't think it's been adjusted anywhere near enough. This should be closer to 220 rather than where it is at the moment.
Lock bets as a casual eye test. Have you watched any of the Memphis and Minnesota series at all? I mean, what do you think of what you see just as the novice casual guy like myself?
I've changed my name. I'm no longer Lock Bets. I'm putting.
If you're just listening to this on Spotify, he just changed his name to Memphis Tailing Punt. That's all it says.
Yeah. Viewers at home, I just put my live tracker.
He is all in on Ja, which he should be. He's arguably the best player.
What kind of question was that? I think the entire world saw what Ja Morant did.
Ja
Morant. I always want to just keep the ahs going. Like,
does he play for the Pelicans? He sound like he does.
I almost think he's got a little French in him, like a little Morant. I mean, that last final play, if you don't believe in that kid as a player, that man,
that dunk too. You see the dunk?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Ruthless. What would Sharky say? Absolutely ruthless. Or he would say the disrespect.
Yes.
Unbelievable. And I'm, like I said, casual, just watcher, viewer, and the fact that they came back like that, the player that he is, though, let's just say the Knicks don't get that kind of talent in the draft. God forbid they got a player like him.
It's one thing to be like a really good player in the NBA, but to make everybody else great around you, like he has that ability. Like he's just not didn't he have a triple double in the game last night? Okay, so I wasn't wrong about that one. So he does everything. He's the intangible guy.
Yeah.
He makes people better. I want to see Memphis
what
move on.
What are we seeing series wise? So what series are we looking into? Are we not there yet? We're not.
No, we're not there yet. So it's 3-2 in that series. So that kind of ties. It looks like right now it's going to tie things up. I know Phoenix and the Pelicans I think they're still going on right now in transit.
Yeah.
Pelicans are up 1 with 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter is what I'm watching that one. So that could go to 7. I want to kind of look at the projections of what we know. Let's go to the East right now. So we have Milwaukee and Boston. You saw Boston absolutely undress a Brooklyn team that was just limping into the playoffs. The favorite to win the East, the favorite to go to the NBA Finals, destroyed in an absolute sweep for Boston. A complete team, in my opinion. What do you see just from a series standpoint? What do you think this is going to end up being?
All right, full disclaimer before we get in. I'm a massive Boston Celtics fan, so there
Thank
might
you.
be a little bit of bias in this,
Do you
right? Just
see-
a
I want
little
to show
bit.
you this. Hold on. I got to show this right
Here
now. That
comes
is
John's
number
memorabilia wall.
17 right there.
That is, yes,
I
that is
love this
fantastic.
team so much. Thank you. We have a Boston 2-1 on this one. Let's go.
So look, yeah, there might be a little bit of bias, but I like to think I can push it aside when it comes to actually talking betting. So look, I was very bullish on them against the Nets. I grabbed them pre-series at -110 for a pretty big stake there. I didn't expect it to be a sweep, but after game 3, I was like, I may as well sweep them. This is pretty lopsided at this point. They look the team that I think a lot of people saw at the back end of the season, but then there were question marks whether that transpires into the playoffs and, can they replicate at both ends of the floor? And the answer is yes. So there's no reason to think that they don't. And this series against Milwaukee got made very, very interesting this morning with the news that Chris Middleton is likely going to miss the entire series for Milwaukee. And that is big. Because Chris Middleton seems to have career nights every time he plays Boston. So not having to deal with that is going to be a big plus for the Celtics. And B, he's kind of the only natural wing that they have to body up with either Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown in most situations. Now, obviously you can stick Giannis there, but it then impacts, I guess, the rest of the lineup and what they do. But, that for me it swings things pretty heavily. And I understand why the markets are extremely bullish on the Celtics. I actually got Boston -1.5 games at +145 just before that news sort of came out. It's still at plus money. I still think it's the right play to be making. I kind of think that's going to steam down to close to evens by the time game 1 comes around for a multitude of reasons as well. I think when you look at the defensive side of the ball, Giannis is always going to be a problem no matter who they're playing and no matter what the matchup is. The guy is genuinely a freak, and the way he impacts games is sort of unrivaled in a way. I mean, you have other elite players, Nikola Jokic obviously comes to mind, that do their version of it, but everyone is sort of, I guess, unique and individual in how they impact it. Giannis very much fits that mold. Whether they completely shut him down, I don't know. But having Robert Williams back is obviously a big plus in that regard. It gives them that sort of help defense inside. I think the way they've utilized Robert Williams over the last couple of months. So he started off the season as just your traditional rim protector, almost like a better Clint Capella, if you will. But credit to Ime Udoka and that coaching staff, the way they've schemed defensively, where Robert Williams is essentially just a free roaming help defender, and it provides a lot of help for Boston, but B, a lot of headaches as well for other teams who, can't seem to work that out exactly. He's fantastic in anticipating plays. He gets across well in help coverage, and the rest of the team obviously responds in that help coverage as well when he moves out of position. So they're just a really well-oiled machine at the moment at that end of the floor. And if they can do that against this Milwaukee team, I like their offense, how they match up with the Bucks as well. Budenholzer has always been someone who kind of likes to just keep man-to-man, doesn't run a whole lot of zone. And I think if you've watched Boston in the past couple of seasons in the playoffs, it's teams who play zone defense that cause them all sorts of headaches and that they can't seem to figure it out sometimes. But if you go man-to-man against them, that's when the Celtics offense really clicks and can cause you a lot of problems. Their off-ball movement is really good. They can sneak in behind. They've got guys that love to cut to the basket and obviously can finish in doing so as well. So for me, a lot of matchup advantages here for the Celtics. And like I said, -1.5 games at any sort of plus money for me stands out, screams volumes. I've got a 2-unit play on that. I think that's probably the best position of all the second round matchups, even though, we haven't got the West ones officially confirmed yet. We can assume what they might be. But that for me, I'm quite bullish on it. I think we're going to see a Celtics and Miami Eastern Conference final.
I think you made an important point there. Is like they like to get to the hoop. They like to dribble, drive, get inside. That gets you to the free throw line. And that team is one of the top free throw shooting teams in the league. Yeah. So it kind of all works hand in hand. And their number one defensive efficiency since January, I heard too, is I'm a Celtics fan.
By a long way. Like the gap between them and the number 2 team is the same as the gap between the number 4 team and the bottom team in the NBA.
I think it changed when they went into free agency and they brought in they didn't just go and bring in strangers. They brought in Theus. I say his name wrong every goddamn time. Tease. And then Al Horford was a huge add to that team, not just for performance reasons. Is like you just need a veteran in there to kind of lead the locker room, and they don't have that leader. I know Jason Tatum is just lead by example. He's not like a guy that's going to yell and scream in your face or anything like that. They brought Al Horford in for that, so I think that was absolutely important.
I think Brad Stevens has done a terrific job retooling this roster.
Yeah, and he not being a coach, he just he's like, I'm in the front office, I'm doing this, I'm gonna let this guy coach, and it changed like from they were going downhill in January, losing to the Knicks, and then all of a sudden they just had flipped a switch, and all of a sudden they're the best team, one of the best teams in the league, like from January on.
Not the only one either. I think one thing I've mentioned previously on other shows is the Pelicans are another example of this that started the season horrendously. And obviously they were aided by the CJ McCollum trade. But both those teams, you're talking about new head coaches who this was a shortened offseason in the NBA. So they didn't get an extended preseason. They didn't get the usual reps that they would before the season started. So
good point.
Those first 2 months of the season were almost like a preseason for these teams. And for those teams with new head coaches, they had to work things out, and it wasn't, I guess, surprising to see the Celtics, the Pelicans. There was a few others as well that were struggling early, and then sort of figured things out naturally, which happens when it comes in time when you understand the system a little bit more, and obviously peaking at the right time for both those teams.
So I haven't seen Lockbest change his name to Boston Tailing yet, so I know he wouldn't do that on my watch.
Well, I was gonna say our fucking punts over here are not as good. I can get like minus 200 winning the series.
Which is a good sign.
2.5.
Yeah, I mean Sharps are really nailing that one.
1.5. Why?
I mean Boston looks like a complete team. I watched every minute of the playoffs. It makes sense, especially with Minnesota losing Middleton.
I'm going to have to shop around. All right. I have to shop around. I'm on draft.
That's an important point for anybody that's a novice watching this. Always shop for the best number.
Yeah. Punt. How do you shop around with all your 100 books? I mean, like what would you say? You open up your books in the morning or at night? I don't know when you prefer to do it. What's your process like just finding that right line that tickles your fancy?
Great question.
So personal experiences, unfortunately, a lot of these books don't really give you the longevity to use the accounts that you have with them. So that kind of weeds out, I'd say, a solid 90% of them within the first couple of months anyway. So it can often just be a case of, having maybe a handful, 3 or 4 personally, a couple of offshore books as well that you can get action on. But one thing, I definitely encourage anyone that's starting off is go and take advantage of anyone that has those sign-up bonuses, deposit bonuses, whatever they might be. Go and use them. At the end of the day, that's to your benefit, assuming you use them correctly, of course, but it's going to be to your benefit long term. So go and take advantage of anything and everything you can in that regard, any promotions you can. And slowly build your bankroll that way. And then over time, as things sort of stack up, you'll find yourself receiving these lovely emails telling you that you are no longer eligible for X, Y, and Z. And that's when you're doing the right thing. And then you can, once those things sort of come to fruition, you can start to, I guess, not necessarily close accounts, but at least start to narrow down where it is you're looking and shopping for these numbers and lines.
Or they reduce your bets to like...
exactly.
Yeah, you can't bet this one for X amount. Yeah, I got that. All right, I want to move into, now that we know that where the last bracket is going to end up. So we got Miami going against Philly. I mean, do we have the Doc Rivers curse here? Is he going to be able to get over the hump and win like he did for our Celtics in number 17, or what's going to happen in this series? Because Miami worries the shit out of me as a Celtics fan.
Yeah, Miami scares the shit out of me too. Doc Rivers is, even with that Celtics, we should have won more than one banner with that team, really. I think that speaks to like Doc Rivers in a nutshell, right? Even when he's successful, he's not really successful because he's still underperformed. And his limitations in the playoffs, I think, come to the fore every year. And it's surprising that contenders keep giving him a chance. I thought that the Clippers bubble capitulation was the final straw for him in terms of getting jobs with competing teams. And then Philadelphia threw him a lifeline. And I think this will be the last one. I think they fall short again against Miami. The Heat are just a model of efficiency, again, at both ends of the floor. And, if their defense can, again, execute the way that we've seen them not just in that first round against Atlanta, but you're talking about a head coach as well in Eric Spoelstra that can specifically scheme for individual guys like Harden and like Embiid. And that's going to put a lot of strain and pressure on the rest of the roster, which isn't particularly good, to be honest. The drop-off after those two is quite noticeable. If the Raptors were fully healthy and, had all their bodies available, there's every chance that they could have been the ones that dispatched Philadelphia in this first round, unfortunately for them.
For sure.
Even game 3, I mean, they missed 2 free throws at the death to win game 3. And it went to overtime as a result. And then they missed free throws again in overtime and then lost to a buzzer beater. So had they won game 3 and then they won game 4 and the series is 2-2, I mean, we're talking about a completely different scenario, I think. I have zero faith in Doc Rivers as a coach in the playoffs. He doesn't adjust anywhere near quick enough. He's extremely stubborn in his ways. And it is ultimately, I think, going to be the undoing for Philadelphia. I think that they're still limited in what they can do. They're obviously extremely dependent on Joel Embiid inside, but as good as he is, I think he's, immensely talented, top 5 in the league this season without a shadow of a doubt. But when you come up against a team like Miami, and like I said, a coach like Spoelstra who can specifically scheme for you and force someone else to beat you, I don't think I trust Philadelphia in those situations. So Miami's offense will again just find ways to attack efficiently and create the looks that they want. The Sixers are a good defense, but they're not a great defense. I think that the early season metrics had them as like a top 3 team, sort of up until February, almost up until the All-Star break. And I always thought it was misleading. And then watching it sort of fall apart in the back end was kind of a sigh of relief as well. It was like, okay, I'm not losing my mind. It really wasn't that good. And I think they kind of fall somewhere in between that. They're not as bad as they were post All-Star break, but they're certainly not as good as they were to start the season. So that middle of the road defense just isn't going to cut it, I don't think, against Miami when you're also having to deal with a top level defense at the other end of the floor.
Do you think from a betting perspective, if you're betting the series on this one, Miami and Philly, do you think it's worth taking them at like a 2.5? Do you think it's a 4-1 series? Do you think it's a 4-2? You think it's a 4-1 or a sweep?
It could be. I think 4-1.
You think 4-1 would be the safe one, right?
Yeah, I think taking that, a small stake on that, if you can get a -2.5 games when that comes available, if you can get a really nice plus price on that, I'd stake on that as well. Just give yourself a little bit of, what I like to call equity when it comes to those game 5 and game 6 situations where you've already got such a strong position in the market. You can then, choose to, I guess, if you want to buy out a little bit, if you want to hedge a little bit. But either way, you could sort of end up in a situation where you're holding a really plus EV ticket in a lot of cases. And, we did that successfully in the Milwaukee series against Chicago. I know Sharky was on it as well, -2.5 games. You're talking about you getting it at -125, and then come game 5, they're -700 to win the game tip-off.
Yeah,
so
right.
Exactly. You're on a -125 for a -700 position. I think
it'd be cool if the Heat lost game 1, and then you get a little bit of value on that one. That'd be really interesting to see.
Yeah, fantastic to see. They're the sort of spots that I look for. That's how I ended up on my Memphis position. They lost game 1.
Oh yeah, that's true. Perfect.
And I basically jumped on pretty big at -120 on them to win the series after game 1.
Still sweaty, but you got
still
value.
Sweaty. Exactly, right?
All about value.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. They're -600 to win the series now, I think. So, if I wanted to chip out, I guess I could, but I have no interest in that situation. So, yeah, this is one of those ones where I would be looking to find entry points into Miami on series positions rather than game to game.
Hey, Lockbets, as the NFL draft advisors, I'm just going to skip to this. Did I miss the Patriots pick?
I didn't see the Patriots, but the Ravens just
they took my guy. I saw
pretty
that
large splash. They took your Notre Dame man, probably the top-rated safety, right?
Yes, by far.
He's
to the
they
Ravens.
took him, and then they took the bad man out of Georgia, number 99, the defensive lineman. I'm not giving you good intel here because I got to get the names down, but they just took 2 of the top talents back to back. Ravens, keep a little eye out. I mean, their defense could be going back to the old Ravens we're used to.
Yes, that safety is like getting pollen. I mean, seeing him in college, I'm as a Notre Dame fan. That's why I got the Notre Dame jersey up here. That's the best safety I've ever seen come out of Notre Dame, if not the league since Troy Polamalu. It's like he's from one side of the field to the other. It's like you, as a quarterback, if you're throwing a loft pass, he's going to catch it. He's going to get there and get.
Yeah,
he's
and by the way, I fucked up. I fucked up. Sorry, guys. For the 10,000 viewers that are watching at home, Jordan Davis is the bad mother effer from Georgia.
That's correct. Well, I mean, everybody on that defense is good.
The Eagles, the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah.
And then Kyle Hamilton, though, did go to the Ravens. And then Kenyon Green, Texas A&M kid, went to the Texans. And we got the Washington
Commanders.
Yes. On the clock. But continue. By the way, I can get I can parlay series together. We'll talk offline. I don't know.
Yes.
Maybe there's some value.
I want to get into that. Now. Okay. I mean, we basically closed out the series that we know. I'd love to see. I'll tell you what. I'd love to see Memphis and the Golden State Warriors play each other. I think Golden State is one of those teams that could probably get to the finals watching them play, but I'm getting a little too ahead of myself watching them play the Nuggets. I think Dallas could be a problem for the Phoenix Suns. If I'm saying anything wrong, Josh, feel free to interject, by the way, because I am going fun. By my eyeballs.
Very fun talking over him.
I don't know shit. All right, let's stop there. Do you think that is a fair assessment of just start with the West? Do you think it's going to be, I think it's going to be Golden State and I think Phoenix does it. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I have been really bullish on Phoenix the entire seasons. From preseason up until now, they have been fantastic for me. They cashed some division bets, some regular season win totals for me. I have them to win the West. I have them to win the title. Obviously, Devin Booker's injury, I'm hoping, is nothing more than just a minor speed bump. You know, there were rumors he might be able to take the floor today. I'm kind of glad that they pulled that back. It looks like they're going to close this one out without him anyway. Up 3, 19 seconds to go. So he did take the floor, sorry, but I don't think that they exerted him more than they needed to, and now they'll get the opportunity to rest properly as well. I can't see a world where if Phoenix are fully healthy, they don't win the West. Golden State have looked good. Don't get me wrong. We've always sort of said, I think, when this team is fully healthy, that's the only time you can judge them. You take out any one of those pieces, whether it's Steph, whether it's Draymond, and it changes the entire feel of that team naturally. But when fully healthy, they are very good. I just think that they're not quite as complete as what the Phoenix Suns are. And I think that this series against Denver has kind of inflated their price a little bit and their reputation. The Nuggets are not a good team. They have the best player in the league. Jokic is the best player in the league, hands down. But the rest of that roster is really, really bad. And like I said, with Miami and Spoelstra, Steve Kerr and the Warriors are similar. If you only have one player for them to have to shut down, they can scheme for that accordingly. And I thought Kevon Looney and Draymond Green both did a terrific job on Jokic, or as terrific as you can do, and put the pressure on everyone else to perform. And obviously they didn't, which really isn't that surprising. So, to see them sort of blow through that series without much resistance, I think is what we probably should have expected if we didn't already expect it. So it didn't necessarily tell me anything I didn't already know about the Warriors. This upcoming series, potential series with, who have they got? So it'll be Suns. Suns will play Dallas, and Golden State will play Memphis.
If they win,
I think pending prices, I can probably see myself getting involved with Memphis in that series. Not because I necessarily think that they are going to go and get it done, but I just think that the reputation and the market price on Golden State is going to leave value on Memphis.
Yes.
And they do still have a lot of pieces that I think can cause them troubles as well. They're a much better defensive team than Denver. That's not even close. Offensively as well, they're a much more consistent and well-rounded team, and I think that's going to cause Golden State some problems because they're not so dependent on an inside paint presence where, Looney and Draymond can just zone in on someone like Jaren Jackson Jr. The way they run that offense, the fact that they have someone like Jackson Jr. who can spread the floor and play from the corner three, and it opens up those driving lanes for Ja Morant and for Dylan Brooks. And, I think DeAnthony Melton becomes a bit more valuable in the rotations in a series like that. They're going to have some success scoring the basketball, and that's going to put a lot of pressure on Golden State to do the same. So, the Warriors were able to basically just score and win against Denver. I think, they're going to have to score and try and figure things out defensively against Memphis. So we're going to get some good value on the Grizzlies there. Again, not saying that I think the Grizzlies are going to make the Western Conference Finals. I just think in anticipation of what the markets are going to do, that's going to be where the value is, and that's probably going to be where we get involved.
It's going to be a good jumping point to get that experience too, especially if they can keep a lot of that team together. So I like that scenario. All right, so let's just end this right now. Before we close out, who do you think is going to win the West?
I was going to ask that.
Oh wait, I'll let Lockbets ask. I'm jumping in too much. I'm too excited. Let's
wrote it down. He's taking my thunder again.
All right, good. No, sorry, I'm not.
All right, Punch School. We are famous for bringing back a podcast video clip 3 weeks from now, 4 weeks from now, tossing it on the timeline.
I'm time stamping right now in my head.
This is your opportunity. The floor is open. Give us your spiel. Give us the reasons. Who's coming out of the West? Who's coming out of the East? And if you're wrong, we will not post it later down the road. Right, you are going.
By the way, this is the luckiest podcast for any capper. By the way, we have a very high track record.
Yes,
so
we do. We have a lot of good stuff. So the floor is yours. Who's coming out of the West? Who's coming out of the East? Let's hear it, Rob.
All right, let's start with the West. The Phoenix Suns are coming out of the West. They will be fully healthy. They will take care of Dallas in the second round. They match up really well with them. Dallas's defense is great, but it's susceptible, again, to sort of those guys that can get into the mid-range and penetrate and are comfortable in doing so. And obviously you're talking about two of the best in CP3 and Devin Booker that can operate in that way. So a bad matchup for Dallas, unfortunately for them. I think they're a terrific team, but they'll come undone there. And the Suns will roll. And whether it's the Grizzlies, whether it's the Warriors, again, they're just going to be a step above at both ends of the floor. So they're just a well-balanced team. Health permitting, the Suns roll. They get to the finals, and they will be facing the Boston Celtics in the finals. I'm going to do it. I'm going to say it. I know it's going to come out as biased to some people who have followed me in the past for a long time, but this team is just so well set up right now. They're a scary prospect. And yes, I think they play the Miami Heat in the Eastern Conference Finals. The Miami Heat do scare me because they have a coach who has coached well against the Celtics in the past and has coached well specifically against Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. However, this is an entirely different Celtics team. This is not that same one that struggled and couldn't get through zone defenses in the bubble. This is not the team that is, frustrated and flustered in certain situations. There seems to be a poise about them. There's a level-headedness that probably didn't exist in this locker room in years gone by. I think the experience as well of all these previous playoff situations is going to bode well for them. I think they get the job done against Miami. I think that the biggest key as well in that matchup is that Boston's defense is going to be able to stop Miami's offense more than Miami's defense can do the same. And that's going to be what ultimately gets it done. I think there's going to be a lot of rock fight games there, a lot of sort of sub 200 total points in that series. But the Celtics get it done, and we get a Boston-Phoenix NBA Finals.
That makes me so happy because I want to live. I want to live 08 back. I want to run it back. I want to run it back.
But Guns, I don't know about you. I think this man deserves a nice breakfast. What do you call breakfast over there?
What's a good Australian breakfast?
Let me go grab some. Yeah, what's a good Australian breakfast? I know I'm a bagel guy. I'm from New Jersey. Love bagels.
Taylor ham.
Taylor ham. Bagels, perfect spread.
Yeah. Bagels are fantastic. Look, we don't have like traditional Australian. Like we're just a bootleg version of the USA. Really, like whatever is trending in America, it makes its way here, and we try and do the same. We try and make it a little bit healthier. So bagels and bacon and egg rolls and all the usual breakfasts that still exist here.
Now, is this a silly question? Now, what are you going to put on your bagel? Do you have like a certain spread that you like? Is it maybe a darker spread? Are you putting something?
I'm a cream cheese guy. I'm a cream cheese guy through and through. Simple as that. Cream cheese bagels all the way.
I thought they were going to hear the V word come out of you.
Oh my god! I refuse to say it. It is the worst thing ever created. I hate that it's associated with this country.
Why is it? Did Hollywood fuck that up? I mean, like who decided to do that?
It's probably the most polarizing spread, even in this country. Like you either hate it or you absolutely love it, and there's no in between. And people who hate it and people who love it will forever go to war with each other on the topic.
Well, I can tell you who screwed it up. There was an 80s band that screwed it up and put it in a song called Land Down Under. That's what happened.
Yeah.
But
We
I
won't
want
go
to
there.
say
We won't go there. I don't want to ruin anything good. Cream cheese, guys. You heard it here first. We're having cream cheese. We're having some bagels. All right.
if you want to put some lox on there, that is okay as well.
I think some. Ever had a little lox on there?
No.
Is that? No.
Oh, it's basically thin sliced salmon.
It's not for everybody. It's not for everybody. It's not.
And
it's not
capers. The capers aren't for everybody either. Capers are not good.
No. They put like thinly cut smoked salmon on cream cheese.
But yeah, just keep the capers off though.
No.
I'm not looking for that like slimy fish on my bagel in the morning.
Yeah, right. The texture just doesn't sound great, nor does the taste.
Well, you're trying to lose a little weight. You gotta go to the beach. You gotta
that's why. Yeah, salty fish.
You can't do the Taylor ham and egg. Let's wrap this up. That's going to do it for episode 81 of the DADBODD podcast. Thank you, Josh, at Hunt_school on Twitter. Please give him a follow. Absolutely electric. Do you do any other sports besides NBA, or do you carry on to the other seasons?
Yeah, I do NBA and I do soccer full time. That keeps me busy 12 months a year. So soccer basically never ends, and I bet on a lot of like weird, obscure leagues. So I don't know if you want to follow. If you don't, I don't blame you. I mean, no one really wants to be watching Colombian Serie B at 10:30 in the morning. But if you do, drop me a follow and we'll have some fun with it.
He's the one-stop shop of gambling degenerates. If you want to wake up, if you want to bet something at midnight while you're drunk, make sure you follow his picks. Wake up the next morning just like we did with KBO into 2020. That's going to do it. Thank you, Josh, and see you next time for episode 82 of the DADBODD podcast. Till next time, peace.